Welcome to Ancient Mysteries. I'm your host, Ben Carter, and in today's episode, we journey into one of the most unsettling enigmas from humanity's distant past, the tale of the Watchers. Who were these mysterious beings said to have descended from the heavens to observe, guide, or perhaps manipulate mankind? Were they angels, ancient astronauts, or something else entirely? Join me as we uncover the chilling accounts that have echoed through myth, scripture, and stone for thousands of years. Long before the modern age of science and satellites, ancient peoples looked to the sky for answers. In the cradles of early civilization, Mesopotamia, Canaan, and Egypt, legends emerged of powerful beings who came not from Earth, but from the stars above. Among the most enduring of these legends is found in the Book of Enoch, a once-lost text attributed to the great-grandfather of Noah. In it, Enoch speaks of divine beings known as the Watchers, 200 angels sent to Earth to observe humanity, but their mission would not remain passive for long. The Watchers are said to have descended upon Mount Hermon, a formidable peak rising where modern-day Lebanon, Syria, and Israel converge. Their arrival was not subtle. According to Enoch, they took human form and lived among men, forming unions with mortal women and fathering a race of giants called the Nephilim. These hybrids, the text claims, were enormous, powerful, and ultimately destructive. But before their corruption, the Watchers brought gifts, knowledge of the stars, the movement of the moon, metallurgy, even cosmetics. To early civilizations, this influx of wisdom seemed divine. Across ancient texts and traditions, we find striking similarities. In Sumerian lore, the Anunnaki, deities from the heavens, descended to guide and govern mankind. In Greek mythology, the Titans, children of Uranus and Gaia, bear eerie resemblance to the rebellious Watchers. Even in Native American traditions, tales exist of sky beings who came to teach and observe. These parallels raise a critical question: were these stories independent myths or cultural memories of a shared event? The ancient Hebrews, particularly during the Babylonian exile, may have absorbed and preserved these legends through texts like Enoch, Jubilees, and other apocrypha. But over time, the story darkened. The Watchers, once heavenly emissaries, began to violate the cosmic order. By breaking divine law, they triggered a cascade of chaos. Their offspring, the Nephilim, grew monstrous and uncontrollable, consuming resources and spreading violence. According to the legend, this corruption was so vast it prompted the Great Flood, a divine reset to cleanse the earth of their influence. But not all accounts paint the Watchers as villains. Some ancient interpretations suggest they were misunderstood. After all, they shared advanced knowledge, perhaps too advanced for early humanity. The skills they offered jump-started technological and cultural development, especially in Mesopotamia and ancient Egypt. Could they have been early benefactors rather than betrayers? Or does their fall from grace reflect an age-old warning that knowledge without restraint can lead to ruin? As we unravel this tangled mythos, the question lingers: were the Watchers real beings, symbols of ancient human memory, or cosmic metaphors cloaked in story? And if they were real, where did they go? The answers, as we'll explore next, lie buried in sacred texts, forbidden scriptures, and half-erased tablets scattered across the deserts of the ancient world. The core mystery surrounding the Watchers isn't just who they were, but what they were. According to the Book of Enoch, they weren't merely angels in the traditional sense. They were called Grigori, a specific class of celestial beings tasked with observing and not interfering. Yet, interfere they did. Their descent was an act of rebellion against divine order, and their teachings, however enlightening, were considered corrupting. The ancient text paints a picture not of guardians, but of beings who tampered with the natural development of humankind. What's particularly intriguing is how this narrative of interference echoes across cultures. In Mesopotamian myth, the Anunnaki were gods from the heavens who created humanity to serve them. But some of these gods, like Enki, gave humans forbidden knowledge, language, writing, and even agricultural techniques. In Greek mythology, Prometheus stole fire from Olympus to give to mankind, an act of defiance punished by the gods. Again and again we see this pattern: beings from above bestowing knowledge and being punished for it. This pattern invites a difficult question. Why was this knowledge considered dangerous? The Book of Enoch hints that the Watchers didn't just teach astronomy or the arts, they also taught humanity to make weapons, to wage war, and to deceive. The Nephilim, their half-human offspring, became giants who dominated and consumed, plunging the world into chaos. Whether metaphor or memory, the story seems to caution that progress, when offered too quickly or without ethical restraint, leads to destruction. Despite its exclusion from the biblical canon, the Book of Enoch remained influential, especially among early Jewish mystics and Christian sects like the Essenes. Fragments of it were discovered among the Dead Sea Scrolls, suggesting its ideas were far from fringe. Even the New Testament contains veiled references to the Watchers, notably in the Epistle of Jude, which speaks of angels who did not keep their proper domain. These echoes show the myth refused to die, simmering beneath the surface of accepted theology. Then there's the physical evidence, or the tantalizing lack of it. Across the ancient world we find depictions of giant beings, advanced knowledge, and strange visitors from the sky. Petroglyphs in South America show humanoids with oversized heads and elongated bodies. In the Middle East, temples and tombs bear carvings of winged figures with otherworldly features. Could these be primitive interpretations of the Watchers? Or are they simply artistic expressions, symbols of divine power rather than literal beings? The story grows more enigmatic when we examine the ancient ruins linked to these tales. Take Mount Hermon, where the Watchers are said to have descended. This location, steeped in biblical and mythological history, was once home to pagan shrines and mysterious temples. Was this coincidence, or was the mountain chosen for its ancient association with the divine? The truth remains elusive. Still, the consistency of the narrative across disparate cultures suggests something more than myth at play. As we move deeper into this mystery, we find scholars divided. Some view the Watchers as purely symbolic, embodiments of human fear about forbidden knowledge. Others believe they represent a suppressed chapter of human history. And then there are those who suggest something even stranger, that the Watchers were real, but not divine. Extraterrestrial visitors mistaken for gods by early man. Could the oldest stories on Earth be memories of an ancient alien encounter? The theories are as fascinating as they are controversial. Among scholars and theologians, the tale of the Watchers has long sparked heated debate. Some argue that the Book of Enoch was never intended as historical fact, but as a theological allegory, a symbolic tale warning against hubris and moral corruption. In this view, the Watchers represent priests or rulers who led early societies astray by introducing warfare, vanity, and disobedience to divine law. The Nephilim, then, are the consequences of that corruption. Monstrous not in size but in moral depravity. Yet others insist the sheer consistency of the Watcher narrative across cultures suggests more than metaphor. One major debate centers on the authenticity and authorship of Enochian texts. The Book of Enoch was widely read by early Christians but excluded from the biblical canon by both Jewish and Christian authorities. Why? Some suggest the text's detailed descriptions of celestial beings and ancient technology clashed too starkly with evolving religious doctrine. Its removal, they argue, was not just theological, it was political. Was the story of the Watchers deemed too dangerous, too revelatory? Some modern scholars believe it threatened the rigid structure of heavenly hierarchy and divine control that mainstream theology sought to maintain. Others look to linguistics and archaeology for clues. The word Nephilim, used in Genesis, has been translated variously as giants, fallen ones, or even those who fell from the sky. The ambiguity fuels speculation. In ancient Hebrew, the root enplal implies descent, falling or being cast down, supporting interpretations of the Nephilim as offspring of divine beings who descended to earth. But traditional scholars push back, arguing that such interpretations rely too heavily on later texts like Enoch, and not enough on the canonical Hebrew Bible, where the references are brief and cryptic. And then there are the ancient megaliths, temples, tombs, and cities built with a level of precision that seems to defy the known capabilities of early humans. Sites like Baalbek in Lebanon, located near the reputed descent site of the Watchers, feature massive stone blocks weighing hundreds of tons. How these stones were moved and placed remains a mystery. While mainstream archaeology attributes it to lost construction techniques, others see in it the fingerprints of ancient knowledge, perhaps knowledge shared by the Watchers themselves. The debate extends to astronomy and sacred geometry. Some researchers argue that ancient structures around the world are aligned with celestial bodies in ways that suggest an advanced understanding of the stars. If true, how did these early civilizations gain such knowledge? Did they develop it on their own, or was it given to them by visitors with a higher understanding of the cosmos? In the academic world, such claims are often dismissed as pseudoscience or mythologizing. But the persistence of these stories and their uncanny similarities across time and geography make them hard to ignore. Whether we see the Watchers as literary allegory, misunderstood history, or something more, the riddle they present is real. What lies at the heart of this ancient mystery? Were we once guided or manipulated by beings beyond our understanding, or have we simply been telling ourselves cautionary tales since the dawn of time? Among scholars and theologians, the tale of the Watchers has long sparked heated debate. Some argue that the Book of Enoch was never intended as historical fact, but as a theological allegory, a symbolic tale warning against hubris and moral corruption. In this view, the Watchers represent priests or rulers who led early societies astray by introducing warfare, vanity, and disobedience to divine law. The Nephilim, then, are the consequences of that corruption. Monstrous not in size but in moral depravity. Yet others insist the sheer consistency of the Watcher narrative across cultures suggests more than metaphor. One major debate centers on the authenticity and authorship of Enochian texts. The Book of Enoch was widely read by early Christians but excluded from the biblical canon by both Jewish and Christian authorities. Why? Some suggest the text's detailed descriptions of celestial beings and ancient technology clashed too starkly with evolving religious doctrine. Its removal, they argue, was not just theological, it was political. Was the story of the Watchers deemed too dangerous, too revelatory? Some modern scholars believe it threatened the rigid structure of heavenly hierarchy and divine control that mainstream theology sought to maintain. Others look to linguistics and archaeology for clues. The word Nephilim, used in Genesis, has been translated variously as giants, fallen ones, or even those who fell from the sky. The ambiguity fuels speculation. In ancient Hebrew, the root enplal implies descent, falling or being cast down, supporting interpretations of the Nephilim as offspring of divine beings who descended to earth. But traditional scholars push back, arguing that such interpretations rely too heavily on later texts like Enoch and not enough on the canonical Hebrew Bible, where the references are brief and cryptic. And then there are the ancient megaliths, temples, tombs, and cities built with a level of precision that seems to defy the known capabilities of early humans. Sites like Baalbek in Lebanon, located near the reputed descent site of the Watchers, feature massive stone blocks weighing hundreds of tons. How these stones were moved and placed remains a mystery. While mainstream archaeology attributes it to lost construction techniques, others see in it the fingerprints of ancient knowledge, perhaps knowledge shared by the Watchers themselves. The debate extends to astronomy and sacred geometry. Some researchers argue that ancient structures around the world are aligned with celestial bodies in ways that suggest an advanced understanding of the stars. If true, how did these early civilizations gain such knowledge? Did they develop it on their own, or was it given to them by visitors with a higher understanding of the cosmos? In the academic world, such claims are often dismissed as pseudoscience or mythologizing. But the persistence of these stories and their uncanny similarities across time and geography make them hard to ignore. Whether we see the Watchers as literary allegory, misunderstood history, or something more, the riddle they present is real. What lies at the heart of this ancient mystery? Were we once guided or manipulated by beings beyond our understanding, or have we simply been telling ourselves cautionary tales since the dawn of time? Venturing beyond the realm of accepted history, we find a universe of speculative and fringe theories that take the story of the Watchers to new, often unsettling heights. Among the most provocative is the ancient astronaut hypothesis. This theory, popularized by authors like Erich von Däniken and Zecharia Sitchin, proposes that the Watchers were not angels or mythical beings, but extraterrestrials. According to this view, early humans, unable to comprehend the science or technology of these visitors, described them in spiritual or supernatural terms. Thus, descending from heaven might mean arriving from the sky, perhaps in spacecraft. Proponents of this theory point to the sudden leap in human development during the Neolithic period, writing, agriculture, astronomy, metallurgy, and ask whether it's a coincidence that these innovations align with the timeline of the Watchers' arrival. The knowledge they supposedly brought matches curiously with what we now understand to be the foundational tools of civilization. Could it be that these ancient beings didn't just observe, but seeded humanity with the tools to build society as we know it? Others go even further. Some fringe theorists claim the Watchers were part of a larger interstellar hierarchy, cosmic gatekeepers or genetic engineers sent to monitor Earth's evolution. According to this idea, the Nephilim weren't just mythical giants, but hybrid experiments gone wrong, an attempt to merge human and alien DNA that violated some kind of galactic code. The resulting chaos and the subsequent flood myth that appears across cultures was not divine punishment, but a planetary reset ordered by higher beings to undo a failed intervention. Then there's the trans-dimensional theory. In this version, the Watchers were not extraterrestrial but extra-dimensional, beings from a parallel reality or higher plane of existence. Some esoteric traditions, including certain interpretations of Kabbalah and Gnosticism, suggest that spiritual entities exist across a vast spectrum of reality, some of which can interact with our world under specific conditions. Could the Watchers have crossed over from such a realm? If so, what opened the door, and has it remained open? Modern UFO phenomena are also frequently linked to the Watcher narrative. Witnesses describe tall, humanoid beings with luminous eyes and advanced capabilities, reminiscent of angelic descriptions from ancient texts. Some believe abductions and encounters are modern-day versions of what early civilizations experienced, recorded in the only language they had, myth and scripture. Could the Watchers still be among us, hidden in shadow, watching once more? Not all fringe theories are cosmic. Some propose that the Watchers were simply a forgotten race, an advanced branch of early humans, or a now extinct hominin species that possessed knowledge and abilities far ahead of their time. In this view, their so-called descent was not from the stars but from hidden parts of the Earth, perhaps lost cities or subterranean realms. Over time, their legacy was mythologized, their deeds amplified, and their physical forms distorted into giants and gods. These theories are often dismissed by mainstream academia, but they persist for a reason. The gaps in our understanding of early history, combined with the universality of these ancient tales, leave room for imagination to thrive. And in that space, between what we know and what we wonder, the Watchers continue to loom, enigmatic as ever. Across millennia, the legend of the Watchers has refused to fade. It lingers in religious texts, whispers through ancient ruins, and echoes in the speculative theories of both scholars and seekers. Whether viewed through the lens of theology, anthropology, or the outer reaches of pseudoscience, one truth is clear. Humanity has always sensed that we were being watched. That knowledge, whether intuitive or inherited, has shaped the way we understand our place in the cosmos. The story begins with observation. Beings sent not to intervene but to witness. Yet their descent marked a turning point. In offering forbidden knowledge, the Watchers reshaped the human experience. Whether those lessons were gifts or curses remains debated, but the result was the same. Civilization advanced rapidly, and chaos soon followed. From this chaos sprang the first great flood stories, the myths of giants, and the enduring fear that knowledge comes at a price. We've explored how these figures appear across cultures, from the Anunnaki of Mesopotamia to the gods of Mesoamerica, from Prometheus to the fallen angels of Judeo-Christian lore. We've examined archaeological wonders like Baalbek and the sacred geography of Mount Hermon, hunting for traces of ancient contact. We've weighed traditional interpretations against cosmic possibilities, considered whether the Watchers were spiritual, alien, or something else entirely. What makes this mystery so enduring isn't just its strangeness, it's its familiarity. The themes are timeless: temptation, rebellion, forbidden wisdom, and a fall from grace. They mirror the human condition. Perhaps that's why this story continues to grip us. It offers a mirror to our own struggle with knowledge, power, and moral responsibility. It asks us to consider whether there are truths we're not ready to understand, and whether someone, or something, is still deciding when we will. Modern thinkers still wrestle with the implications. If the Watchers were real, whether divine, extraterrestrial, or symbolic, what was their true purpose? Were they guardians, genetic engineers, cosmic observers bound by laws we cannot comprehend? The idea that we were seeded, shaped, or supervised by an outside intelligence cuts to the heart of humanity's most primal questions. Where did we come from? Why are we here? And are we truly alone? Science offers no definitive answers. Religion provides context, but demands faith. Myth gives us narrative, but not proof. And so the mystery remains open. Ancient records are incomplete. Oral traditions are corrupted by time. But somewhere, perhaps hidden in a cave, buried beneath centuries of sand, or coded in an ancient script, we may one day find the key that connects the pieces. Until then, we are left to wonder, not only about the Watchers themselves, but about how their story shapes our own. Whether they came from heaven, another world, or the human psyche, their legacy has endured longer than empires. They are part of us now, woven into our myths, our fears, and perhaps even our DNA. What happens when the watched begin to understand the Watchers? That question remains, and so too does the mystery. The legacy of the Watchers, like a shadow cast across history, extends far beyond ancient texts and forgotten temples. In modern times, their presence lingers in our stories, our fears, and the symbols that seem to recur again and again. Eyes in the sky, giants lost to time, beings cloaked in light or darkness. Though the Book of Enoch may have been cast aside by councils and empires, the myth endured, passed down in secret circles and esoteric traditions, whispered among mystics, and echoed in the eerie parallels found across the globe. In recent decades, renewed interest in the Watchers has surged, particularly among fringe researchers and alternative historians. Their story has become a cornerstone of ancient alien theory and occult revivalism. Conferences, documentaries, and online forums dissect every line of Enoch, every carving that might depict a winged figure, every ruin with massive stone blocks no one can explain. For many, the Watchers are no longer just myth. They are evidence of a hidden truth suppressed through time. Pop culture, too, has revived them, often in disguise. From towering angelic beings in sci-fi epics to shadowy overlords in dystopian tales, the archetype of the Watcher continues to haunt our collective imagination. Their story taps into something primal, the idea that we are not the apex, not alone, and that somewhere above or below, forces exist that once shaped us, and may still be watching. But what are we to make of it all? We've traced the Watchers from ancient Sumer to Mount Hermon, from forbidden texts to speculative physics. We've considered their gifts, mathematics, astronomy, metallurgy, as both blessings and curses. We've wrestled with scholarly skepticism and opened the door to theories that challenge every foundation of mainstream history. And yet, the central mystery remains untouched at its core. The Watchers weren't merely symbols. They weren't just divine or alien or fallen. They were present. That presence, whether literal or metaphorical, continues to raise a chilling possibility, that the story of the Watchers wasn't meant to be a warning from the past, but a reminder of the present. Are they gone, or merely silent? As we move toward the final moments of this exploration, we must ask ourselves what it means if the Watchers were real. If entities once intervened in human development, what role do they play now? Do the patterns of sudden leaps in technology, strange sightings, and the enduring fear of surveillance suggest they never truly left? The ancient texts say they descended once. Some believe they will return. Others think they never stopped watching at all, and perhaps they never intended to. If the Watchers never truly left, then we are left to question what role they now play in the unfolding story of humanity. Some believe their influence is still felt, subtly, indirectly, like a hand guiding from behind the veil. In conspiracy circles, they are said to operate in silence, shaping global events through secret societies and hidden technologies. In mystical traditions, they are contacted through ritual, appearing not as figures of light, but as beings cloaked in symbols and riddles. and in more grounded circles of thought they remain metaphors, archetypes of knowledge unearned and the dangers it brings. In the last century alone, humanity has experienced seismic shifts in its understanding of the universe. From quantum physics to the decoding of DNA, we've made intellectual leaps that rival the mythical gifts the Watchers once bestowed. Some researchers suggest these bursts of insight are more than coincidence. Could modern science be rediscovering knowledge we once had, long buried after the Great Flood, or some ancient cataclysm? Ancient traditions often speak of cycles, ages of rise and fall, knowledge gained and lost, only to be gained again. The Hindu concept of yugas, the Mayan long count calendar, and even Plato's accounts of Atlantis suggest that history is not linear, but circular. In that cycle, the Watchers might not be a one-time anomaly, but part of a recurring pattern. Emissaries or intruders who return at turning points in human development, either to guide or to test. And then there's the technological angle. With artificial intelligence, genetic engineering, and surveillance systems becoming integral parts of our society, some theorists wonder, have we become the new Watchers? Have we taken up the mantle, observing, modifying, even controlling others through knowledge? And if so, are we now facing the same moral questions that once confronted those ancient beings? In the biblical story, the Watchers fell because they stepped beyond their bounds. They interfered. They gave without consent. Their punishment was severe, their legacy marked by loss. Perhaps that story is not only about the past, but a blueprint for the consequences of unchecked advancement. Are we repeating their error now, unraveling truths we don't yet understand, offering gifts we haven't earned? Some believe a reckoning is coming. Whether it's an ecological collapse, a technological singularity, or a spiritual awakening, many feel that humanity stands on the edge of something vast. And as that moment approaches, the Watchers re-enter the conversation, not just as figures from dusty scrolls, but as symbols of our own peril, our own potential, and the eternal question, what happens when you reach too far, too fast? Whether they are real or myth, alien or angel, the Watchers remain a cipher, a mystery coded into the very foundations of civilization. And perhaps that's the greatest mystery of all, not who they were, but why their story still resonates thousands of years later. The question we now face is not simply whether the Watchers existed, but why their story was preserved across such vast expanses of time and culture. Why did ancient scribes risk heresy to record their tale? Why did early Christian sects revere the Book of Enoch while later religious authorities sought to suppress it? Why do echoes of these beings, these celestial observers, continue to surface in the myths of nearly every ancient civilization? The Watchers are not a one-time anomaly. They are a thread running through the deepest fabric of human memory. In the end, the Watchers represent something larger than any single tradition. They are the embodiment of that persistent, unsettling feeling that humanity is not alone in its journey, that we have been shaped by forces beyond our control, perhaps even beyond our comprehension. Whether these forces were divine, alien, or psychological projections matters less than the fact that they endure in our consciousness. From the tablets of Sumer to the cathedrals of Europe, from the mountaintops of the Near East to the glyphs in the jungle temples of Mesoamerica, the Watchers are there, silent, watching. And perhaps that's the point. The Watchers are not merely part of the past. They are the symbolic guardians of forbidden knowledge, the crossroads between safety and progress. They remind us that wisdom comes at a cost, that curiosity can unleash wonders or ruin. In them we see the best and worst of ourselves, our desire to learn, our failure to restrain, and our struggle to live with what we uncover. For the faithful they serve as a warning that even angels can fall. For the scientific they inspire questions about lost civilizations and unacknowledged truths. For the curious they offer a story that refuses to resolve, an open door into something older, stranger, and far more complex than modern history allows. Their myth persists not because it has answers, but because it provokes deeper questions. Were we alone in our earliest days? Did someone guide us, shape us, or even deceive us? Are the gaps in our history merely accidents of time, or intentional omissions? And if the Watchers are still among us, hidden in the shadows of culture, technology, or belief, what is their purpose now? As we near the conclusion of our exploration, it becomes clear that the power of the Watchers lies not in proving their existence, but in understanding what their story reveals about us, about the dangers of unchecked power, about the mystery of knowledge, and about the fragile line between guardian and manipulator, between teacher and tyrant. The Watchers may have fallen, but their influence remains, etched in legend, burned into architecture, and perhaps even sleeping in our DNA. And if their eyes are still upon us, as some believe, then the final question isn't whether we can see them, it's whether they ever stopped seeing us. As we reach the end of our journey into the enigma of the Watchers, one thing becomes clear. Their story is not just a relic of the ancient world, but a living myth, still pulsing through our imagination. Whether viewed as fallen angels, alien custodians, forgotten gods, or symbolic warnings, the Watchers represent a mystery that refuses to fade. Their presence, real or imagined, has shaped our stories, our fears, and even our aspirations. And in their silence, they continue to challenge us with a question we may never fully answer. What is watching us, and why? In the Book of Enoch, the fate of the Watchers is sealed. Bound beneath the earth, imprisoned in darkness until the day of judgment, their legacy left to crumble into myth. But myths have a way of surviving. In the carved wings of ancient stone, in the star maps of civilizations long gone, in the dreams and nightmares of every culture, something lingers. It is that lingering presence, the feeling of being watched, of being shaped, that makes the Watchers more than a story. It makes them a part of who we are. Some believe their influence lives on in the secrets buried under forgotten temples or encoded in forbidden texts. Others search for them in the night sky, scanning for strange lights or messages hidden in the stars. And some look inward, to our own obsession with knowledge, our rush toward artificial intelligence, quantum leaps and genetic manipulation, technologies that echo the very gifts the Watchers were once condemned for giving. Perhaps we are not just the watched. Perhaps we are becoming the Watchers ourselves. In a world increasingly driven by observation, data and control, we must ask, have we inherited not only their gifts, but also their burden? And if we repeat their path, will we face their fate? The ancient warning is subtle but persistent. To see too much, to know too much too fast, may lead not to enlightenment, but to ruin. And yet, we are drawn to it, as if some part of us remembers. The Watchers may have fallen, but their story remains. It reminds us that truth often hides behind metaphor, that history is layered with meaning, and that even the oldest tales can hold relevance in the modern world. In questioning them, we question ourselves, our origins, our future, and the vast unknown that still surrounds us. And maybe that's the greatest mystery of all. Not whether the Watchers were real, but whether we are ready, truly ready, to become what they were, guardians, teachers, rebels, or something else entirely. Thanks for listening. This has been another episode of Ancient Mysteries. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow us wherever you listen to podcasts, and if you'd like to support the show, subscribe to Ancient Mysteries on Spotify. Subscribe now.